What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and for part 2 of the build log, I think what I'm going to focus on is first and foremost we need to disassemble this PC here, because we are going to be using a number of these components, mainly the graphics card, the RAM, CPU. I need to get the 6700K out of here. I need to get it delidded, and obviously get it into this system here. I've got the water block and backplate for the 1080, although you're not going to see the backplate, but I wanted to get one anyway because, for one, it does add a little bit of structural rigidity to the card, and two, when it comes time to maybe sell the card or move it into a different build, I'd rather just have the backplate on it. So even though you won't see it, I've got a nickel backplate, so, whatever. But the other main thing is a lot of these fittings I'm going to be using as well. So I need to get all this stuff out, get the 6700K delidded into this new motherboard, get the 1080 out, get the block on, get that set in here, and then kind of get a feeling for all the fittings that I have. Figure out if I need to order any more fittings. I do have some more fittings over here chilling in this case here. Now, some of these are chrome, and then some of them are black sparkle. I'm going to be using the black sparkle fittings in this build, which is what I have in here. So I'm sure I'm going to need something, but I won't really know until I start to get everything lined out in here. And then briefly kind of talk about some of the stuff I've decided to do mod wise inside the case. So you can see this pretty well here, but the motherboard covers up a portion of these grommets here, and I'm not gonna like the way it looks if I route this cabling into this grommet here. So I'm going to go ahead and probably in this area here, where I can get a real nice arch for my cables, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. I'm going to be building a whole new, panel for the back here. I'm not going to want to see all these holes and all the other junk that's going on. So in that process, similar to like what I did here, where all of the cabling terminates very nicely into the mid plate that I built for this case, I'm going to do something similar in here. I haven't decided on what kind of finish I'm going to go with yet. I'm considering painting it with like a nice metallic paint, maybe like a dark kind of gunmetal color or silver. I'm not really sure yet, but I do want to keep with the theme of all the different sort of metallic colors that are going on here. And then I think I'm also going to, now a lot of this stuff I just put in here temporarily for fitment, but I might end up turning this rad around to where the ports are here, because there's going to be a pretty good amount of space between the reservoir and the motherboard and the graphics card. So in order not to have just a lot of negative space here, I think it might be nice to have a lot of the tubing sort of running in this area here, because over in this area between what's on the motherboard and the graphics card being mounted vertically here, there's going to be plenty to look at in this portion of the case. So to fill the space nicely, I mean, you got a rad here, which is not exciting, reservoir, which is nice, and then it'd be nice to have some tubing and stuff going on in here to take advantage of that space. I'm most certainly going to be doing a panel down here. Anywhere that you see unused, portions of the case that have holes and, guides and that sort of thing, I will cover that stuff up so that it doesn't detract from the look of the build. To give you an idea of what I'm talking about, that's essentially what I did in this case here. Rather than just having, all the open holes and whatnot in the case, I used acrylic panels to really clean up the interior so that you can focus on the components and all the nice modding that went on. So try to do something similar to that in here. But yeah, so that's that. So next up, get this thing taken apart, drain the loop. This is going to take me a while, but not sure if I'm going to get this all done tonight. So potentially the next cut in this video, it's either going to be later tonight or possibly tomorrow, depending on how much I get done. But hopefully next phase will be graphics card installed with a water block, and having this disassembled so I can see what fittings I have to work with, and we'll go from there. So this is something I want to show you guys real quick. Getting ready to drain the loop here, and this is a perfect example of a water-cooled PC that is not only a pain in the ass to fill and prime, but also a pain in the ass to drain. So if you are not using a pump res combo, obviously you always want to make sure that your reservoir is directly feeding the pump to make sure that the pump always has some fluid going to it. And my reservoir is directly feeding the pump, but because I did not buy appropriate sort of angled fittings that really would have helped me out here, and that was mainly just because of a time constraint. By the time I had to complete this build for an event, I just did not have time to order any more fittings. So I got stuck with doing this sort of thing here. And anyway, getting the fluid to, I don't know, you guys can see it's a pain in the ass. But yeah, try not to do this. So take advice from me. Don't do what I did. Most of these runs are fine, but this run that comes through the pass-through fitting and loops around, and I did that just so that there were no kinks and it would be a nice smooth flow. And when the system's running and it's all primed, it works out just fine. But trying to fill it and prime it, and then I've already drained this loop a few times. I know how much of a pain in the ass this is going to be. I'm going to have to pick up the system, move it around. I've got I always do this when I'm filling and also draining, as I connect sort of a longer tube to the top of the reservoir, because obviously you got to let air into the loop in order to push it out from the drain valve. But this also gives me a little bit of room to play with if I need to tilt the case around to make sure that fluid's not going to come back out of there. So yeah, but yeah, that's just a little lesson to be learned. Try to avoid doing this if you can. It's a headache. The build looks really cool from the front, and in hindsight, if I had had more time, I would have just ordered some angled fittings to get some better tubing routing back here. But yeah, lesson learned. Alright, so it's been a few days since I last turned the camera on, so just to give you a quick update where I'm at this part in the build. So as you can see, I got the 240 stripped down. Excuse the weird mess here, but assortment of fittings here and a few things in here. Here's the poor case sitting here. I still have to get the radiator and the fans out. It's a little bit of a pain in this build because I actually have to pull all the connectors off of the 4 fans to pull the fan cables back through the mid plate. But anyway, I don't need those right away, so they're just going to kind of chill there for now. And then last night, so I did this 2 nights ago. Last night, I spent a little bit of time online and put in an order for over $200 worth of new Bits Power fittings from Performance PCs. I won't be using all of them, but it's nice to have an assortment of some different things so that when it comes time to do the loop, you've got some options. So hopefully all the guys down there in Florida at Performance PCs are going to be safe when the Hurricane Irma rolls through there. I wasn't really sure if my order was going to go through, but thankfully I guess I got it put in time. So yeah, hopefully I'll be seeing that stuff pretty soon. And in addition to stripping down the Air 240 and getting all those components rinsed off, obviously I was able to get the water block and backplate installed on the 1080, and I went ahead and stuck it in here just to see what it's going to look like. I think it looks pretty cool. Excited to see how everything's going to come together, especially when I can get some fluid in here. I always thought it was a shame that these blocks, especially these acrylic blocks, they look so awesome, and it's neat to be able to see the chambers and the fluid moving through, but with traditional mounting of the graphics card, you never really get to see that. So that was one of my reasonings for choosing this case. Was I hadn't yet done a build with a vertically mounted graphics card, and I've always really wanted to show off this this block here. So next step is to go ahead and get the 6700K delidded, get that installed, and then hopefully by, let's see, today's Thursday, my stuff shipped today. It usually takes 3 or 4 days to get here from Florida, especially with the weekend, and who knows what's going to happen with the hurricane. So hopefully beginning of next week I will be able to start configuring a loop in here. But for the time being, I'm pretty happy with the progress. Also, I went ahead and ordered, should be showing up tomorrow, the new power supply for my build, so that the 850p2 that's in there now, I'm going to go ahead and put it in this build. So I've got a Seasonic Prime coming for my PC. So yeah, I'll be able to get that in and start even getting a better idea of how everything fits in here. So yeah, that's where we're at now. Also, another thing I'm gonna have to start working on is the cables. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do about these fan cables, because it turns out I wasn't expecting this, but all these cables, I was hoping that the PWM you know, cable was going to be separate from the lighting control, but Thermaltake has them all combined together. So I can probably pretty easily repin this, so I can cut these cables down and re-sleeve them, but we'll see if I even bother taking the time to do that, because there's so much room behind this case. I don't even know if I'm going to mess with it or not. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. I don't know exactly how long it's been since the last time I filmed something for this build log, but I think it's been the better part of 2 weeks at least, and not a whole lot's changed. I at least got the power supply in. I do have the CPU delidded and ready to go. So next step is to uninstall everything. I still need to put the CPU in and at least test out the motherboard. That's the only new component that I haven't used yet to verify that it's actually working. So want to do that before I get everything else installed. Everything's ordered, most of the parts are here, so I should be able to rock and roll on this thing here pretty soon. But for sure, I think that the next build log is going to include the installation of all of the rigid tubing and probably the cables and wiring. There's not going to be a whole lot left after that, aside from maybe some of the mods to the case and whatnot. But obviously at that point, the majority of the build is going to be completed, but definitely ready to move forward. Pleased with how everything is coming together so far. Excited about this, although I'm moving a bit slow, but you know, other stuff going on in life that sort of prohibits me from just working on this thing every waking minute. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for part 2 of the build log. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.